Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with a new weekly word challenge review video. Last week's word was tarot card, so let's see what you guys came up with. Alright guys, so let's hop into the video. Last week's word for the weekly word challenge was tarot card, and was really excited to see what you guys came up with, and you came up with some really awesome stuff this week, so I enjoyed seeing all the submissions. So thanks for everyone that participated. Once again, if you guys haven't joined, hop on over after the video to Facebook, the Keep Creating group over there. That's where people post the designs for these weekly art challenges. And like I said, the word was tarot card, and just to give you a little bit of background, I'm not really into tarot. I don't do readings or get readings or anything like that. I do love tarot cards though, just because of just the look of them. I like them from, just an artistic standpoint. I do have a deck of tarot cards. Like I said, it's more of a collector type of thing than actually using them for anything. But if you guys aren't familiar, I know a lot of people had said in the comments, they weren't really into tarot cards or didn't know that much about them. So just picked a couple out to throw here. And first and foremost, like I said, I love them just because of the art. But as growing up as a kid, I collected sports cards, trading cards, stuff like that. And those are all, very small, playing card size almost. This one is actually one of the cards I did for a German drinking company. So this playing card, you can see, is just so much smaller than the tarot cards. So they're almost bigger than life. And I just love, the fact that the artwork was so big on them. Plus the layout is fantastic, where you've got these, they're very small, and dimension wise, they're nothing too crazy. These are very elongated. They're a lot taller than they are wide. And I just love the look of them. And from tarot deck to tarot deck, that's one thing that is pretty standard, is the size. When you see a tarot card and you've got this really, long canvas that's a lot longer than it is, width-wise, that it really reads tarot card right away. So I was kind of surprised with some of the submissions this week that a lot of people did not go for the standard tarot size. I don't know if it was just lack of research or just understanding that that's the main size. Of course, there's no right or wrong way to do any of these challenges, and it is very up to the artist and viewer. But just with some familiarity with myself, and just knowing, like, when I see a tarot card and know just size wise is so important, that was kind of surprising to see. And it'll actually lead into something that I'll talk about here shortly. So it's kind of a cool thing that people chose to do that, and we'll kind of get into that, and it'll lead more into, talking about art and becoming, a freelance artist and selling your art and your services and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first one this week is from Linda. And like I said, right off the bat, Linda went with a very almost, 8x10 paper size, canvas size. So once again, it just does not read a tarot card right off the bat to someone that knows tarot or, has an affinity towards the cards. Like I said, it should be a lot more narrow and higher than it is, wide, and it just doesn't come off as reading as the tarot card. But she did do a fantastic job as far as researching. She's got the Roman numerals in there, which a lot of the cards you'll have Roman numerals for the cards at the top and then the description at the bottom. Sometimes these change around a little bit, and then you'll have other cards that just have the name of the card, and then other cards that just have the Roman numerals. So she included both here. But as far as layout goes, once again, it's not traditional tarot, just because these would usually be one on top of the other here. And the sun here, you really can't see it if you're not looking for it, so it doesn't stand out. But other than that, the design itself, I absolutely love. The use of the primary colors is done really well. I love this repeating background of the sun rays here. It really draws the viewer into the design, and I think that is just fantastic. Same thing with the way that the sunflowers here come in, and it kind of breaks up the sun and just doesn't jump immediately to the figure of the lady and the horse. It kind of slowly, gradually works its way from this pattern into this, and I think it breaks it up really, really well. And I just like the general layout. I think it's really well done, and the choice of colors is great. And I love, the sun face, and just everything pops on it. It's a very bright, energetic, and just really well done piece of work. So thanks for sharing, Linda. Next up is Sam, and Sam goes by Black Mass on Instagram. And Sam was excited for this week's word because tarot's right up his alley of interests. And Sam went really pretty hardcore on this as far as understanding the card that he chose and then going in and actually researching it and making the card mean something based around what the meaning of the card is, but with current events and stuff like that. So just to kind of throw it out there, I'm going to read what Sam wrote on here. So he kind of broke down tarot first. Tarot is typically used in occult practice for divination by using symbols and subliminal images to tap into the cosmic psyche and draw insight into the querent's past, present, and future. So the cards have different meanings, and this one is the World card that he chose, and the symbolism as described by Wikipedia is below. So in the traditional tarot deck, a naked woman hovers or dances above the earth holding a staff in each hand surrounded by a green wreath, being watched by various creatures. In older decks, these are usually a tetramorph, a human face or head, a lion, an ox, and an eagle, the symbols of the four evangelists. Four figures in the corners of the card are also referenced in the book of Revelation, where the throne of God is described. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was a flying eagle. So later decks avert Christian symbolism or ignore it altogether. But as far as this, you can see, I won't go into the rest of it, but you can see he definitely went with, the world powers here with the different countries represented by the different animal heads. And just overall, it really speaks to, the current state of affairs. And with it being the World card, I think that just the amount of time and effort that it took doing the research and doing the layout and presentation, I think it works really, really well just on a design standpoint. But then tying in the meaning to the card is just fantastic. I love the layout with, how the animal heads are facing off against each other. The background is really well done too with the center here. I like the snake frame around here. And just overall, just really, really good. I'm not a huge fan of the curving in of this frame going around. I would almost like to see it, just straight up and straight down border like that would be on a tarot card. But you definitely got the overall canvas orientation and size right. It's a lot longer in height than it is in width. So I think it definitely reads like a tarot card. Love the, the little world thing down here, the kind of placard for the name. I think that is really well done. Like I said, not sure on the curve in here. And it might look okay with the curve if the canvas itself is more broken up like the card, but since it's on a regular canvas, I'm not sure, if this is supposed to be the card or if this is the card, how would these be printed out if it was a card? But overall, fantastic job. The thought that went into it and just like I said, defining the meaning of the card and tying it in was just phenomenal. So definitely check out Sam on Instagram at Black Mass. Fantastic job, Sam. Next up is Carl. And Carl did two different submissions, and I'm putting these here. Once again, these were more squared off. So once again, tarot themed, but does not read, like a tarot card at all. So this is kind of getting into, like I said, with the going into a career with art or, doing freelance and stuff like that. And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do these weekly challenges. So, I'm not saying that these were done wrong by any means, but it does bring up an interesting point as far as tying this into, going freelance or getting clients and stuff like that. So let's say somebody came to you with a brief that said, I want to hire you to do a deck of tarot cards, so on and so forth. Or it could be anything, it could be a trading card deck or just anything in general. But with this case, we'll use tarot deck. So, you can put a lot of time and effort into creating something that you think a client might want, but making sure you're on the same page is super, super important. A lot of times too, clients will just kind of assume that you know what they're talking about. So if they say, hey, I want this deck of tarot cards and this is how many cards and I need these, different characters in it or title cards, so on and so forth, and kind of let you go. And then you come back and, have, squared designs here, or like Linda did, like an 8x10, and they say, well, we can't use those, we need these. So number one, if you are setting up, relationships with clients, definitely, reach out ahead of time beforehand, before any work starts. I always usually do a sketch process, so start out to make sure that we're on the same page initially, and then kind of go from there. But definitely making sure that what you're providing is what the client is asking for or what they have in mind. You'll find a lot of times clients assume that you are a mind reader, which obviously it doesn't work that way. So to save yourself headaches and save the client headaches, definitely make sure, jumping into a project ahead of time, that you know exactly what's expected and what the client wants from you. Additionally, a lot of times too, you'll have clients that ask for things that you might not be comfortable doing. It might not be in your wheelhouse. Definitely as an artist, look at yourself, be kind of introspective, and take a step back. We all, as artists, have things that we're good at, and we have things that we're not good at. So it takes a strong person to be willing to not only see your strengths, but admit your weaknesses. And definitely starting out with, freelancing and getting clients and doing artwork and getting paid to do artwork, you want to take every job that you can. You want to just be the person that can make a living from art. And honestly, if it's something that's not in your wheelhouse, if it's something that doesn't play to your strengths, don't be afraid to turn down work. Honestly, I've turned down a lot of jobs in the past just because it's not been something that, I'm good at, not something that's in my kind of portfolio of work. You'll see a lot of clients too that just kind of assume, they'll see that you can draw, and well, you can draw, so you can draw anything. And for a lot of artists, that's not the case. Also, if you have developed a style, which watching my videos, I do a very cartoon style. If somebody's looking for something super realistic and, in a painterly style for me, it might be something that I turn down, because it's one of those things. Direct them back to my portfolio and say, hey, is this something you're sure that you wanted? Did you see my work? Because that's not the style that I work in, so I'm not sure what you're expecting or what you're going to get is necessarily what you need for the project. So a lot of times too, if you turn down projects, don't be afraid. Sometimes clients will kind of, get upset and say, well, I guess you don't want to get paid, or you don't want to work. But a lot of times, and more times than not, a client's going to understand and honestly be appreciative that you're going to be upfront with them and say, hey, this really isn't, my style of work, and I don't want to charge you for something that you're not going to be happy with, because this is just not the style that I work in. Also, that's another great opportunity, and a tip that I can give you is network with other artists. I talk daily to a pretty good handful of artists online, and we kind of all have our different styles. And I've had some over the past years who, if I get a client that wants a certain type of work that I'm not comfortable with doing, or it's not my style, I can usually go back and find an artist that I'm friends with online and recommend them. Of course, with that, you definitely want to know the artist that you're recommending. You want to kind of vouch for them, because by not doing a piece for a client, you're kind of trying to save yourself some bad word of mouth. If you present something to the client that they don't like, and ahead of time it's not your style, that's why you don't want to do it, just because it could create a bad word of mouth about you as an artist. Likewise, you don't really want to recommend somebody that you can't vouch for 100%. So definitely know people, but it works both ways. So if I recommend, somebody for a certain project, later on in the future, they can do the same for me. And that's happened in the past too. So it's definitely key to kind of build those relationships. So that's that. Back to the piece here from Carl. Like I said, he did two of them, and this kind of ties into what I was talking about. Number one, the designs are fantastic. I just love the kind of plain simplicity of just having the lines do the work. There's no colors really. Here you've got two different colors, but it is just the line work. And I think these are absolutely gorgeous. The typography used is just fantastic. The way here, the part of the design splits this up, the way that use the Roman numerals here and then put the under here instead of smashing it in with the Herman over here, and the way here that the Roman numerals and the are in one, and the distance across is the same distance that the sun takes up, is just really well done. Like I said, of course, the usual layout of cards are not going to work like this, but I think this would be really cool if you did like a t-shirt design, a series of t-shirts, you know, just based around the icons of the tarot deck. I think these would work really well on something like that. Of course, like, you know, size-wise of the tarot card, it doesn't work, and the layout from card to card really doesn't change where the descriptions are, so it wouldn't work for that, but I think this is really good. The reason, too, why I wanted to talk about this one and bring it back to just art in general and taking on clients, the reason these work really well together is because obviously these would be something that's going to appear in a series, and doing any series work, so it can be something like this to where you're doing a deck of cards. It could be something like I've talked before about doing coloring books, anything that's in a series and is packaged together or is supposed to be, you know, grouped together in a presentation. You want to make sure that it has the same style, that you don't vary the techniques used across the cards or across the series. Now, sometimes, you know, if it's a series that is representing different artists and people go into it knowing that, perfectly fine. But if you're the one doing it and it's supposed to be, you know, a cohesive package, this is what you want to look for, is making everything the same style choice. So for example, if you went with this design for the Hermit, and then the Sun one, you know, had this painted in, and, you know, there was a lot of shadows and highlights and maybe some, you know, paintbrush strokes and stuff like that, they're not going to look congruent with each other. They're not going to look complementary, and it's going to look like two different artists did it. Like I said, if it's a thing where a company's doing it and using different artists and it's apparent, you know, right away, that's cool. But if it's something that you're doing and you want to keep this congruent look to it, definitely look at your, you know, style from one piece to the next and kind of keep it doing something like this to where they all tie in and match. So they're just absolutely fantastic job, Carl. So thanks for sharing. Next one up is Michael, and Michael went with the Misfits logo. This is very cool because obviously the layout is pretty much exact based on the cards that I showed you before, as far as having the Roman numeral up here and Judgment down here at the bottom. So definitely well done there as far as getting those in the right spot. It could have probably been a little bit longer, I think, just as far as the shape goes. You almost nailed it as far as, you know, size wise. Probably would stretch it out a little bit longer just to read it a little bit more like tarot, but I think it does, you know, a very good job of reading a tarot card. And I love just the work that was done on here. This very kind of grungy, distressed charcoal look throughout the design itself and the background. And I just think it is very, very cool. You've got a lot of textures in here that read really, really well on here, and I really like. One thing I'm not a fan of is the hand here. It almost looks like an afterthought, like it was just kind of smushed in. And with the hand itself too, it's not so much, you know, a skeleton hand. You kind of got the cuts here to where it looks like the bones, but I just don't think it reads as well as the face itself. So I would probably just get rid of that completely. If you just over here, let's see, I would just, you know, just drop this shoulder down right here and just remove that, and I think it would honestly look a lot better. You've got this really kind of imposing look and really well done, and it reads well, and this, it doesn't really match up between the two. So like I said, just knock that out and it would look 100% better. So fantastic job. I love it. Very good job, Michael. And last up is Christine. And once again, with this one, Moon is one of the cards in the tarot deck, but layout wise, it's not in a traditional tarot layout. So this doesn't really read tarot card at all to me, just because it could be a poster that you put on the wall. I think it looks more like a poster. So one of the things to, once again, consider just the overall look of what you're trying to go for and what you're trying to imply to the viewer of your artwork. But other than that, the actual use of the design in this is fantastic. I love, I'll zoom in here, I love the actual design work on the birds. This use of multiple colors. There's like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors of these lines stacked up on each other. And when you pull back, it almost reminds me of like how they do icing on cakes, and you just have that just amazing texture when they put, you know, different colors of icing on top of each other. And I think that looks really, really cool in here. Bird feathers are, you know, really hard to do unless you go super realistic with it. And I like this, that it's not a realistic look, but it still has, you know, a very realistic look to it once you pull back, just because of the way it's done. I think it's really a good design choice. I love the moon in the background. That is really well done. It pops against the birds. I know I think it was last week's video about the moon looking a little bit different in the one. I think this really kind of nails that. You got a very soft glow around it too, which I like. And the way that the word here, moon, is using the same technique as the birds used, and then the branch actually pulling off of here, I think is a really cool design choice too. I also like the, you know, the overlap here of the T and the N off the sides. So overall, just a very striking piece that I absolutely love. So thanks so much for sharing that, Christine. And those are the 5 designs featured in today's video. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. As always, thank you for watching. I want to thank everyone that participated in this week's challenge. If you liked today's video too, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. Also, if you want to possibly see your art featured in one of these videos, hop on over to Facebook after this video. The link is in the description below for Keep Creating, the Learn, Draw, Share art community over on Facebook. That is where you submit your designs based on these weekly word prompts, and we want to see what you guys can come up with. So last week's word was tarot card, and for this week, a lot of people in the comment section have been asking to do a wolf video, so it seems like there's a lot of wolf fans out there. So let's make this week's word wolf, and just because people have asked for it, I will actually participate in this challenge as well, so you can look forward to seeing my wolf submission in the group and in the video next week. As for me, I can be found online at bjdell.com, as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.